As a former government insider, I've seen way too many people lose thousands, tens of thousands of dollars because they forget to do this one final step during their tax season. So before you put your taxes away, there's one more thing you got to do. All right, my name is Ed Weir. I'm a former Social Security manager. I help people throughout the country help get all the benefits they're entitled to. I've got hundreds of videos on all things retirement, survivor benefits, disability, Medicare. So make sure you check out all my videos. And I also do a live Q&A on YouTube and TikTok every Thursday at 4 o'clock West Coast time. And I pop up all the time, it seems like, in case people have questions. So make sure you subscribe. And next time I do a Q&A with you, your family, friends, let's make sure you're getting all the benefits you're entitled to and prepare you for the future. All right. So there's also three groups, three professions that are really at risk of losing benefits. The issue is when you file your taxes, those taxes go to the IRS, your W-2, your 1099, and the IRS notifies Social Security. And Social Security uses that for example, for retirement. Your retirement benefit is determined by your high 35 years of earnings. It's not your last year or your last 5 years or anything. It's your high 35 years of earnings. So if somewhere along the way, your accountant, the IRS, the Social Security inputs a number, then that just might affect your retirement for the rest of your life once you file. So you have to make sure that's correct. How do you do that? Well, you go on to SSA.GOV, you set up an account, and then again, before you put your taxes away, you get your taxes right there, exactly what you paid. You set up your account and you go in there and you make sure that Social Security has the correct amount. And it usually takes a little while. So if you just filed your taxes a few days ago or last week or so, give it a couple, 3 weeks or so for it to reflect in your Social Security, and just make sure it's correct. There's three professions, three groups of people that are really susceptible to incorrect earnings records with the Social Security Administration. Those are self-employed. So 1099, you've got your own business or something like that. So those are highly susceptible to incorrect calculations. So if you're self-employed, you've got a side job or you're full-time self-employed, you really have to make sure your earnings record is correct. Another one is the spouse of someone self-employed that you work together in the same company. What happens is if you're both working the same company, what often happens is when accountants or your bookkeepers, I've seen this too many times, when they submit the tax records, in terms of IRS taxes, you're, president and vice president or whatever the case may be. So it's not an issue because that's your total taxation for that particular time. That's fine. But what happens is when they input the FICA part of it, the Social Security part and the Medicare part, what they do often is they put it under one Social Security number. So you or your spouse. So let's say it's you and your wife have a business, and it's your wife it's her business. She started it, but you're helping her out. And when the accountant goes in there and inputs everything, they put all the Social Security earnings on her. And then if something happens, you get divorced or something like that, 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the line, you go in there, the husband goes in there to file for Social Security retirement benefits. Guess what? You never paid. So you have to figure it out between yourself. Do you want, all of the Social Security earnings going on to one person and you're definitely going to stay married for the rest of your life? Or do you want to separate it half and half? So you have to figure that out when you file your taxes. And if you've already done that for a few years, you just might have to amend your taxes. All right. Then the third group that I've seen, this is a new one. But we've already seen a lot of mistakes, and that's the infamous gig workers. So if you're Uber Eats or Lyft or whatever, a gig worker and you get a 1099, sometimes people work for 2 or 3 or 4 of those. And so they get 2 or 3 or 4 different 1099s from the different companies. And for whatever reason, they don't include one of the 1099s, and the FICA is not included in there. And again, later on, when you go to file for your retirement or disability, if something happens and you need to file for disability immediately next year, 2 years from now, if you didn't pay into Social Security, it's a pay or play, or pay for play. Um, if you didn't pay into Social Security, then you can't get disability or retirement, or Medicare eventually. So it's important that everything is reflected in there correctly. Okay, so how do you fix that? If you find out, go into SSA.gov, check, make sure everything is correct. And if it's not, then you just have to get your IRS taxes that you actually paid, particularly for 1099. You have to prove that you actually paid taxes on it. And, you've got, it's based on the net income. But if you expensed everything out and you didn't have any taxes, then, that's an entirely different issue. But you need to take your tax records down to the Social Security Administration, and you need to do it, sooner rather than later, because what happens is people don't check, and then 5, 10 years, 20 years later, they, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll start thinking about retirement, and they go in there and set up an account, and all their earnings records are all messed up. There's a bunch of missing years, and they just don't have their documentation anymore. And there's kind of a limitation in how far back Social Security can go to correct in some particular cases. There's exceptions with everything Social Security. If you watch my videos, you will know that. But you don't want to limit your retirement, disability, survivor benefits for your spouses, your children. You want to make sure your earnings records are correct. So if you make sure you check out all my videos, and if you have any further questions, make sure you check out my question and answer live. I do every Thursday at 4 o'clock West Coast time. Take care and have an awesome day.